Good evening everybody, Gordon Saggart back with a video for that sound and a little transfer review, or should I say a transfer update really, on the big story that is dominating United's headlines and pretty much the transfer window at the moment, which is of course Alexis Sanchez. So on Friday I did a little video, and at that point it was starting to the story was starting to kind of take speed a little bit. But, still very hesitant, still very, I was very insistent that it was never going to happen. Seemed nail on that the Manchester City deal was done. This was just a last minute bit of interest, but genuine interest. And, well, as the weekend's gone on, it's kind of spiralled on, hasn't it? United look in a much stronger position, and coming from quite a few reliable sources now that United are ahead in negotiations, and in fact City may have actually pulled out. DiMarzio has claimed that United are ahead in negotiations, and it could even be that terms are agreed. It's just a matter of wrangling out a deal. So that the moment the latest things that we've seen is that, of course, United were going to, City didn't want to offer 20, they were going to do a maximum of 20 million in January, or wait for the summer to pay him and his agent a signing on fee. But United were willing to pay the 35/40 million, which includes an agent's fee now for the player, with the potential of Henrik Mkhitaryan going the other way. Now, for me, 40 million for Sanchez, 6 months or not on a contract, is an absolute snip. It kind of shows to me if City are sort of digging their heels in on 20 million, considering they've just spent God knows how much money this summer on fullbacks. It shows to me that they don't particularly, they want the player, but really they don't really need him. And when you look at their squad, they don't. We would need a Sanchez character much more than they would do. And I think that might be the key in persuading Sanchez, if he's not already interested, to come to Manchester United, purely because he would get games and he would probably be one of the main guys at United. And the rumours are that he's been offered the number 7 shirt and all this kind of stuff. So the rumour, just looking around here, was that obviously the deal was to do with a player going in the other way, and that was meant to be Henrik Mkhitaryan. But if we're having a look at Sports Witness now, they are claiming actually that, let me just have a check of this. So, according to El Mercurio, which is the Chilean newspaper, they reckon they know why a deal hasn't been agreed. Now, if you don't know Sports Witness, they usually report on the stories that are around. They kind of put them all together and kind of tell you if it's a bit shit, or if it's just, or if there's actually a bit of something to it. And hilariously, they claim that they don't. This paper in Chile know why a deal hasn't been closed yet, and that's because Henrik Mkhitaryan is not very enthralled at the idea of signing for Arsenal, which is fair enough. I mean, why would you want to sign for him right now? They are a team in freefall, and why would you want to sign for a manager like Arsene Wenger? I mean, his reputation is pretty much depleted now. His myth, his legend is gone. They're a team that are spiralling really towards where we were under David Moyes, if not worse, mid-table, and at risk of losing Ozil and Sanchez, which on a free would be utterly ridiculous. But that's quite funny, because obviously the fact that Mkhitaryan would not entertain the idea of Arsenal, with Arsene Wenger being quite a big fan apparently, means that it could allow Manchester City back into the transfer. Just give me a second there. Which I don't know. I don't particularly believe. However, another spanner into the works has been thrown up from reports in France, actually, that Mkhitaryan not wanting to go to Arsenal have now looked and set their sights on a different Manchester United player, Anthony Martial. Now, for me, this is a completely different kettle of fish, because I know Arsenal were interested in him before he came to United. He's French. Obviously, Wenger's got a link with Monaco there as well. I love Mkhitaryan. I think he's a great player. There's part of me that if he goes would be worried that he's going to then go on and star for Arsenal for the next God knows how many years. However, if Martial went, I would be much more distressed. Almost to the point that I would say I would rather keep Martial and forget Sanchez. Now that might be crazy, because Sanchez is ready-made. He's a player now who would have a huge effect for us. But Martial, at such a young age, and I know he had a difficult season last year, but I've never, or very rarely have I seen a player with so much potential at United at such a young age. So composed in front of the goal most of the time, and with so much natural dribbling ability. I really would be gutted if Anthony Martial moved on. The story is from France is that we've overtaken the rivals, and while we wouldn't mind seeing Henrik Mkhitaryan go the other way, letting their French starlet go is out of the question. Apparently, Arsenal have looked at that, and thankfully it seems that United have categorically refused that offer, which would just be a nightmare if he went the other way. Again, I would love Sanchez to beat United, but you don't want to be losing your best youngsters for this kind of deal. And let's be honest, they're getting a decent amount of money out of this, so really they can't be complaining too much. Now, with that in mind, with the talk of course, United, we're talking about youngsters that have shown potential. One of those other youngsters I would have classed with that is a certain Mr. Cristiano Ronaldo. And hey-ho, Cristiano Ronaldo has been linked with a move to Manchester United in the midst of buying a pretty huge name, a pretty big forward going, doesn't necessarily play in the same position now as Ronaldo did, but they certainly were in similar positions. And now this has crept up again. Would you believe it? This comes from a Spanish radio. Yes, and the prospect has hit AS in Spain's front page, saying Cristiano wants to leave and Manchester United are his priority, and the return is closer than ever. He's He's angry with Florentino Perez for reneging on a promise of a new contract, and a breakdown in the relationship between the two men is said to be at least partly behind Ronaldo's poor form recently. But quite funny because it seems that every single time that Manchester United, anything to do with Ronaldo, it's always linked back to Manchester United. And as sports witnesses say, our return to Manchester United is closer than ever, which presumably means closer than all the other times it was closer than ever. I think we can probably discount this one straight out of the bat. Certainly, you would have to give it to the Manchester United board if they're trying to negotiate a deal with Ronaldo and Sanchez in January. Wow, I'd have to give Ed Woodward much more credit than he's had or probably deserves, to be honest. So those are the latest stories. So I was pretty much dead certain it wasn't going to happen, and I'm starting to get a little bit excited about this Sanchez deal. I've got to be honest. There's part of me, don't shoot me yet, but I feel like it is going to happen. Everything seems now, of course, not just the reports from general, the good sources, but it seems that actually the reports generally in the media now seems like City are out of there, and the player himself has probably agreed that he wants to go to United. There were obviously reports a few years ago that he was interested in United. He was talking about United being one of the clubs like United, Barcelona, that he would want to move to. There's also claims now from the same newspaper in Chile that Mourinho called and had a conversation with Sanchez in April. So it would seem, at that point maybe he thought a deal wasn't possible. But he may have sowed the seeds then, we don't know. One thing that has really annoyed me, a bit of a rant now, but the watching all this stuff at the weekend about the pundits, particularly pundits and fans about, why Sanchez would choose United over City. I understand that City are, of the moment, they are, ahead of us, obviously, looking like bar a miracle, they're going to win the league, even though they lost yesterday. I don't understand their attitude towards Manchester United, like we're some sort of mid-table team who've, not won anything in the last couple of decades. This is Manchester United we're talking about. Even in the 80s, before Fergie arrived, 20 odd years without a trophy, we were still one of the biggest clubs, able to attract the biggest players. And certainly now, we are the most successful club in Europe. I think it's pretty obvious why you wouldn't want to join City. You have our full stadiums every week, and they didn't win anything last year. Who won 2 trophies? We did. So all this bollocks about, I would go to City now and going to United is for the money. Well, that's ironic, considering the amount of money City have spent on transfers and wages, and with pretty much the trendsetters in these huge transfer fees. So it's quite ironic that literally in the space of 6 months, City have gone from being the main team in the league now, where players go for trophies and don't go for money. And United are now that other club. It's utterly ridiculous. Again, the same reason why Manchester City are not a legendary team in the Premier League yet. They've done well for this half a season. They've played some fantastic football, I'll give you that. They've got a great squad in there, and they will no doubt win the league this year. But let's be honest, you're not a classic Premiership team unless you won a couple of Premier Leagues on the bounce at least, and the Champions League. So, bit of a rant there, annoying me at the moment, or listening to even our own, people who've, pundits who've played for us in the past, still, rattling on about this. Look, the facts are, United is a big attraction. He's going to get first team football at United, no doubt. He's going to win trophies because we are in for trophies. We've got Jose Mourinho at the helm. So I honestly think it would be a great decision for him to come to United. And I think he would have a long career. He's 28, 29 now. And for us to pay 40 million for him would be an absolute snip. Anyway, that's it for today. A little bit of news, of course, is Ryan Giggs has gone to be Wales manager. Not sure about that decision for him, to be honest with you. But, best of luck. I hope he does good. I hope he does a good job. Because he needs to go out there and prove himself. But I would have said he probably needs to go and prove himself at club level if he has any interest in being Manchester United manager, purely from a selfish point of view. That's what I'm looking at this point. And of course, United are in action tonight against Stoke City, who have just appointed Paul Lambert. Interesting appointment there. Pretty much bottom of the pile. I'm pretty sure they've pretty much refused every other manager has refused them in the last 48 hours, haven't they? So, but knowing this is what's going to happen. They'll come to United and put in a sterling performance and get a draw, because that is just typical, isn't it? So yes, well, Manchester City have obviously lost their first game yesterday, so United need to either way. Look, we're not going to catch them. It's very, very unlikely, but we still need to be ploughing ahead, and we need to take advantage of that and get 3 points tonight. So fingers crossed for that, and fingers crossed that in the next couple of days we will have a new number 7 on our books. I will make sure I'm going to be making some more videos this week. So once anything goes through, I will try and put a video up, obviously, to alert you guys, or you probably found out already. In the meantime, I would ask you all, please, if you love these videos, to subscribe, to like them and share them. I need to get some subs up, really, while I've got the opportunity to do a few more videos, and it encourages me to do a few more, no matter where I am or how busy I am. So yeah, please subscribe, share it, put on the little notification bell as well, make sure you know when I'm coming through, and I will see you next time.